I never thought it would happen to me. You hear about tragedies on the news, fires, hurricanes, floods, but you never really think your name will be the one flashing across the screen. My name is Amanda Blake, and I'm a 38-year-old wife, mom, an ordinary woman from Houston, Texas. Or at least I used to be. I'm not the same person since the flood, and I'll never be the same after what I saw when I died. It started with rain. Nothing new for us. Cedar Hollow gets its fair share of storms. But this rain felt different. It was heavier, louder, as if the sky itself was angry. By the third day, streets were already beginning to flood, and local news stations warned us to stay alert. Mark, my husband, was pacing the living room with his phone pressed to his ear, trying to get updates from the parish emergency line. I remember standing at the sink, washing dishes and watching water pool in our backyard, creeping toward the patio like a silent invader. Our kids, Ella and Mason, were upstairs playing, unaware of the danger building outside. I didn't want to alarm them, but my gut twisted in a way I couldn't ignore. By nightfall, the power was out. Our home sat near the bottom of a gentle slope, which meant runoff collected fast. I heard the first splash against the sliding glass door just before midnight. It wasn't a trickle, it was a wave. We tried to evacuate. I packed bags, grabbed photo albums, passports, and a few clothes. Mark went to get the car but came back yelling, "The street's already a river." Within minutes, water was pouring into our living room like it had a mission to destroy everything in its path. Mark pulled Ella and Mason into his arms, and I grabbed a flashlight, thinking we could wade to the neighbor's second story. But the current was faster than we thought. Debris floated around us: tree branches, trash cans, someone's patio chair. The water rose past my waist as I struggled to keep my footing. I was holding Mason's hand one moment, and the next I slipped. A piece of wood slammed into my ribs, and I went under. I still remember the cold. It wasn't just water, it was like death itself clung to my skin. I fought, kicked, screamed, but the current was merciless. It carried me beneath the surface, down the street, through shadows and silt and silence. My lungs screamed for air, and as blackness edged into my vision, I thought of my children. I thought of Mark. I thought, this is it. Then everything stopped. No pain, no sound, no fear, just stillness. At first, I thought I was floating. Then I realized my body was below me. I could see it, pale and lifeless, tangled in a branch near the edge of what used to be Maple Avenue. But I wasn't afraid. I felt weightless, peaceful. And then the light came. It didn't blind me. It welcomed me. It was warm, golden, filled with a presence I had no words for except one: Jesus. I didn't see him right away. I felt him. His voice didn't thunder. It was inside me, yet all around me, like the sound of love itself. I was no longer Amanda Blake, the mom, or the wife, or the woman drowning in floodwaters. I was just his. "Amanda," he said, "come. There's something I need to show you. There are no footsteps in that place, no ground beneath your feet, yet somehow you move. You're carried by something deeper than wind or gravity. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's his will." That's how I felt as Jesus guided me away from the floodwaters of Cedar Hollow into a realm so vivid, so alive, it made the world I knew seem like a pale imitation. At first, I didn't see him in form. I only felt him. His presence enveloped me like light with weight, thick with love, compassion, and something deeper: authority. He knew me, every mistake I'd made, every secret, every fear. And still, he loved me. We came to what looked like a vast valley. In the distance were cities familiar and unfamiliar all at once. I saw skyscrapers, churches, schools, homes. Some glowed with light and joy. Others were shadowed, flickering like dying candles. Jesus' voice came again, but not from his mouth, from everywhere. "This is your land, Amanda. This is your nation." I knew immediately he meant America. He showed me scenes that tore at my soul. A mother crying at a kitchen table, a foreclosure notice in her hand. A teenage boy in a dark bedroom, scrolling endlessly through social media, his heart hollow with comparison and shame. a pastor standing at a pulpit, delivering words without power, more afraid of losing followers than preaching truth. Then I saw darker things. Storms, fires, streets empty except for armored vehicles, flags being trampled, churches locked and abandoned, people looking for food, for hope, for answers. I turned to the presence beside me, still unseen, but near, and I begged, "Jesus, why are you showing me this?" "Because what is coming will shake the foundation of your nation," he said. "But I am not showing you these things to bring fear. I'm showing you so you can return and warn, comfort, and awaken." I felt a deep ache in my spirit, a burden I didn't ask for but couldn't deny. Then I was taken to a place that pulsed with beauty, gardens more vibrant than anything on earth, children laughing, music not made with instruments, but with colors and wind. It was heaven. I knew it without being told. I longed to stay, but Jesus spoke again. "You must go back." I pleaded, "Please, don't send me. I want to stay here with you." "Amanda," he said with sorrow and strength, "your purpose is not yet fulfilled. There are things I need you to tell them." "What things?" I asked, my heart trembling. He paused. The atmosphere changed. The warmth of heaven was still there, but now a holy fire stirred in his presence. "Tell them," he said, "that comfort is not their God, that wealth will not save them, that I am not mocked, and a nation that forgets me will feel the shaking of my hand, not because I desire destruction, but because I long to awaken my people from their slumber." My spirit quaked at his words. They weren't angry, they were sorrowful, like a father desperate to wake his children before the house burns down. He continued, "Tell them to return to me, to repent, to love what is holy, to prepare not with bunkers and bullets, but with hearts that know my voice and hands ready to serve." Suddenly, images flooded my vision: revival tents in cornfields, worship in city streets, children prophesying, people gathering not for entertainment but for the presence of God. It was like he was saying, "Yes, there will be shaking, but also glory." And then, just like that, I felt myself falling backward. The light faded. The sounds vanished. I gasped, air rushing into my lungs like fire. The first thing I felt was pain. Cold, hard, searing pain. The next was a hand gripping mine and a voice shouting, "She's breathing. She's breathing." I opened my eyes to blurry faces, flashing lights, and the distant sound of helicopter blades slicing the air. My lungs screamed as if I had inhaled fire. I coughed, choked, and realized I was lying on a stretcher in the middle of what used to be our neighborhood but now looked like a war zone. A paramedic hovered over me. "Stay with us, ma'am. You were under for nearly 10 minutes. We thought we lost you." 10 minutes. It felt like hours, eternities in that place with Jesus. I tried to speak, but all I could do was whisper, "Where's my family?" By God's mercy, they were safe. Mark had managed to get Ella and Mason to the second floor of a neighbor's home that hadn't completely flooded. Someone spotted my body tangled in a branch a few blocks away. I was technically dead when they pulled me out, but I didn't stay dead, because Jesus had something he wanted me to tell. The hospital stay blurred together tubes, wires, tearful reunions. But through it all, that voice stayed with me. Not audibly, but deep in my spirit. A fire had been lit in me, one I couldn't ignore. When the doctors talked about how lucky I was to be alive, I gently corrected them. "It wasn't luck," I said. "It was Jesus. He brought me back, and I have something to say." At first, no one quite knew what to make of me. They chalked it up to trauma, near-death delirium, or the overactive imagination of a religious woman. But I wasn't trying to convince anyone, I was just telling the truth. And the truth burned inside me like a brand. I couldn't go back to normal. I couldn't just return to folding laundry, picking up the kids from school, and pretending nothing happened. I had seen the veil pulled back. I had seen what was coming. Not just storms and disasters. Not just economic collapse or civil unrest. I had seen a spiritual famine of falling away. A nation seduced by comfort and distraction. A church lulled to sleep by compromise and convenience. A people more concerned with being right than being holy. But I had also seen hope. Real revival. Not stadium lights and celebrity preachers, but weeping in living rooms, healing in the streets, people on their knees, not because of fear but because of awe. That's the message I began to carry. At first, it was to friends, family, our small Bible group. But it spread. Word got out. Someone recorded my story on a podcast. Then a church invited me to speak. Then another. Before long, I found myself standing in front of crowds I never asked for, telling the same truth. I died in a flood, but Jesus brought me back to warn America. We are standing at the edge of a spiritual cliff. And if we don't turn, the shaking will come. But if we do, if we do, He will pour out glory like we've never seen. Some people laughed. Some rolled their eyes. But others wept. And that's when I knew I was doing what He'd asked. Not everyone welcomed my message. You'd think that after dying and coming back, people would at least listen. But I quickly learned that truth, especially when it cuts deep, doesn't make you many friends. Some called me a prophet. Others called me crazy. I wasn't looking for either title. I was just a woman who met Jesus in the flood. I remember one Sunday, standing in a modest church on the edge of Baton Rouge. The building wasn't fancy peeling paint, folding chairs, a single microphone, but the people were hungry. Some had driven hours to hear what I had to say. I stood behind the pulpit, my hands trembling, not with fear, but with fire. I told them everything. About the flood, about floating above my own body, about Jesus' voice like thunder wrapped in mercy, about the vision of America half asleep, half afraid, and teetering on the edge of collapse. He said we must prepare. I told them, but not like the world prepares. We prepare by falling on our knees, by loving our neighbors, by standing for truth, even when it's costly. Jesus isn't looking for polished religion. He's looking for surrendered hearts. When I said those words, I saw an older man in the third row start to weep. Not a sniffle, a full-body cry. Afterward, he came up to me, hands shaking. I haven't felt the Holy Spirit like that in 20 years, he said. But when you spoke, it was like he came back into the room. I knew then this wasn't about me. It never was. This was about a wake-up call to a nation addicted to noise, to scrolling, to self. And I was just the cracked vessel he'd chosen to carry it. Still, not every door opened. One megachurch invited me to speak, then canceled when they read the part of my testimony where Jesus said, "A nation that forgets me will feel the shaking of my hand." They said it was too political, that it might scare people. But I wasn't trying to scare anyone. I was trying to prepare them, because what Jesus showed me wasn't just spiritual. He showed me cities burning, markets crashing, children crying in schools that had turned into shelters, churches being told to silence their message or lose their status. And yet there was always a thread of light in every vision, always a remnant, always those who stood in the fire and refused to bow. Like the Hebrew boys in Babylon, their clothes singed, but their faith untouched. "Tell my people," Jesus had said, "that now is the time to choose. Not when the shaking starts, not when comfort is gone. Now." That word "now" rang in my spirit day and night. So I kept going, living room by living room, church by church, podcast by podcast. And no matter where I went, I found the same thing. People are hungry, not for religion, not for routine, but for truth, for something real, for the Jesus I met in that golden light, the one who speaks with both love and fire. There's something I didn't share right away, something I kept close to my heart because it haunted me, not out of fear, but out of the weight it carried. In that place beyond the veil, after Jesus showed me the beauty of heaven and the brokenness of America, he let me see one more thing. It was like a scroll unrolling before me, moving pictures, scenes as vivid as real life. First, I saw the ground shake, not metaphorically, literally. A city, one I recognized, though I won't name it, was split open by an earthquake. Buildings collapsed. People screamed, trapped, searching for loved ones. Then came a storm worse than anything I'd seen in my life. Waves surged over entire neighborhoods. And in the distance, I saw a great fire rising in the heart of a major city, smoke curling into the sky like a black serpent. It felt like judgment, but it wasn't rage. It was more like mercy in disguise. Why are you letting this happen? I cried out in that place. Aren't you a God of love? Jesus didn't answer right away. His eyes, though I couldn't see them fully, held sorrow deeper than oceans. And then he said something I will never forget. Amanda, sometimes my love must come like a flood, not to destroy, but to wash away what no longer bears fruit. America is a garden overgrown with weeds, but I will not destroy the garden, I will prune it. I will shake what must be shaken, so that what remains will be rooted in me. Those words shattered me. I realized we had mistaken God's patience for approval. We'd mistaken comfort for blessing. We'd worshipped safety while ignoring the state of our souls. And yet, even in the vision of chaos and shaking, there was hope. I saw small pockets of light all over the country. Prayer meetings in barns, worship under bridges, deliverance on street corners, revival in the most unexpected places: jails, rehab centers, inner-city parks. People who had nothing, no budget, no stage, no live stream, just hunger for God. Jesus called them lamps in the night. These, he said, will carry my fire. These will be my messengers, not the proud, not the polished, but the broken and the bold. When I woke up back in my broken body, those images were seared into me. That's why I speak. That's why I've shared my story again and again, even when it costs me friends, even when it invites criticism. Because this isn't about me. It's about him. It's about what's coming and what we can still choose if we respond now. Not out of fear, but out of love. Because that's what I felt more than anything else in his presence. Uncontainable, unwavering, undeserved love. It's been over a year since the flood. Our home in Cedar Hollow is gone. The neighborhood we once knew is just a memory now, buried beneath the mud and debris left behind. We rebuilt our lives in a smaller town nearby, nothing fancy, but it's peaceful. Ella and Mason are back in school, and Mark has returned to work. On the outside, things seem almost normal again. But I'm not the same woman who stood in that kitchen rinsing dishes, thinking about tomorrow's to-do list. That Amanda died in the water. The one who came back, she carries something sacred. There's not a day that goes by that I don't replay those moments floating above my body, hearing Jesus call my name, seeing the shaking and the glory intertwined. Sometimes I wake in the middle of the night with his words echoing in my spirit. Tell them to return to me. I've told the story in churches, in backyards, in whispered prayers over phone calls. I've shared it on live streams and across coffee tables. I've wept with strangers who felt the same stirring in their spirit, who said they too have had dreams, visions, or just an unshakable feeling that something is coming and that God is calling. And here's what I've come to believe. This isn't just about America. It's about hearts. It's about how we've wandered so far from the one who made us, and yet he still calls us home. The shaking that's coming, it's not because God has given up on us. It's because he loves us too much to let us sleep through the fire. And the hope he showed me, it's not some distant fantasy. It's here. It's rising in unexpected places. It's alive in quiet worship, in humble repentance, in the voices of ordinary people who've been touched by something they can't explain but will never deny. I am one of them. I shouldn't be here. I should have died in that flood. But Jesus spared me not so I could live in silence, but so I could speak. So here it is, the message I was sent back to give. America, the storm is not your enemy. The flood is not your end. It is your awakening. Return to the Lord. Let go of your idols. Raise your children to know his name. Open your doors to the broken. Pray like your life depends on it, because it does. I say this not from a pulpit, but from a place of fire-tested love. Jesus is calling, not with threats, not with fear, but with arms wide open. He still wants us, all of us, even now, especially now.